Right. Good evening, guys. I'm here. Not really late, I guess right on time. So good to see you guys that are already here waiting on me. I appreciate that. So let me get the disclaimers out of the way and then we'll get started with tonight's broadcast. This is a weekly live broadcast. If you have not been here before, basically, this is just an Ask Me Anything session. I don't have a topic planned out, so I do my best to respond to the comments that come in on the chats that come in on the chat itself, the live chat, and just respond to every one of them I can. Unless you guys are having a conversation amongst yourselves, which is fine, do that. If you want to talk to somebody else in the chat, that's fine with me. You can do that. The only things I ask is keep it family friendly, be polite. Don't start calling anybody names. Don't start cussing at us. Don't no political stuff in here really. I mean, you can ask me a question if you want to about my political affiliations or whatever, but no, we don't want to get into a bunch of political stuff. We don't want to get into a bunch of divisive stuff here. We've got people from all ages and all different backgrounds in. Just be polite and friendly to everybody. So let's get into it. All right. Robert says hello from Florida. Hello to you, Robert. Good to see you. Adrian, good to see you too. And Jupiter, the Argentine Tegu, says, hi, Chris. Hope you're having a great day. So far, it's been pretty good. Looking forward to you on Koternik's Corner with Terry. Yeah, that's coming up in 2 weeks, basically. Not this coming Tuesday, but the next Tuesday, the 11th, at 6 o'clock Central Time. I'll be live on their channel. That's the plan anyway, and barring any kind of catastrophes between now and then, that should happen. So we'll be on there talking. Let's see. Live to Fish says, I got 49 eggs popping today. Bob White. Awesome. Congratulations. Hopefully they're doing well. All right. Hey, Mike's here. Good to see you, Mike. Big Mike, I should say. He says hello from the family from Long Island. Hope you all are having a good night. As far as politics, the only thing I'll say is no matter what you think, make sure you go out and vote. Well, I actually haven't been voting recently. I'm going to grab a drink here. I probably should be. You're right. I probably should be. So maybe I will. Who knows? I didn't the last election. I just kind of knew how it was going to go. My vote didn't really matter that much, so I didn't do it. All right. William Safford says, can't wait for the Koternik's Corner segment with you. Awesome. I'm glad you guys, I'm glad you guys are going to go check that out. So Terry's a pretty nice guy. I haven't seen a ton of his videos. I was just out in the garden, and I think I got bit by a mosquito, if you're wondering why I'm scratching so much. I've seen a few of his videos. They've all been pretty good. Real nice guy. So I'm looking forward to the interview on Tuesday, the 11th, that is. All right. Where are we at here? Ordinary Mango. Hello from Follett, Texas. That's from Phyllis. Hello to you. And let's see. Tony Colella. I always have a hard time with your last name, Tony. Says, could you provide some suggestions on keeping odor down and composting quail manure in the city? I'm running out of black trash cans to put holes in. Yeah. Okay, so, if you want to compost it, the key to keeping odor down and compost is carbon. Quail manure is almost all nitrogen, so if you pile it up in just a big pile by itself, you're going to end up, it's going to get anaerobic and it's going to smell bad, especially when it gets wet. It's going to smell really, really bad. So you need to add pretty much equal parts of carbon, and carbon is going to be your browns like dead grass, straw, wood chips, any of that kind of stuff. If you're hard up for, you don't have any of that stuff handy, you can go to any of your local probably hardware stores or like Academy Sports and Outdoors and buy a bag of those wood pellets they use for wood stoves. They're pretty cheap, and just mix it, roughly half and half by volume, not by weight necessarily, but by volume. So, put down a layer of quail manure and then throw a layer of that wood chips, just a layer over the top of them, put down more quail manure, a layer over the top of them. And that will help keep your smell down quite a bit. And also if you stir it occasionally to aerate it, that will make it break down a lot faster, and that'll help keep the smell down quite a bit. Though that's the key really to getting things to compost without, because what happens, the smell basically is caused by them they become anaerobic, lack of air inside, and that's what produces the smell, high nitrogen content. So anyway, try that, see how that works. That would be my suggestion for that. And it should break down pretty quickly. It's pretty hot stuff, so it will break down that carbon pretty quickly. It'll get real hot, like steaming hot, when you add all that carbon to it. And then, heck, you might sell some of that fertilizer, as fertilizer once it all breaks down and becomes good compost. Give it if you're not going to turn it, you could do it really, really fast. You could, if you want to turn that pile like every couple of days for 2 weeks, you're gonna end up with compost in about 2 to 3 weeks. If you just want to pile it all up and let it set, mixed in with carbon and stuff, it's probably going to take a couple of months. But you could sell it for sure. Just sell it as fertilizer to your neighbors, or put it on your own garden or whatever. All right, hopefully that helps. Tom says, good evening from South Florida. My wife and I are new to quail owners and love your channel. Thank you. And they're 6 weeks old now, just waiting for our first eggs. You shouldn't have to wait much longer. 6 weeks old, usually they start laying around 8 to 10, somewhere right around in there. Expect them initially to be kind of slow to produce, maybe not an egg every day. You're going to probably get some strange eggs, like little bitty eggs, great big eggs, eggs with no shells on them. That's all part of the process. Don't worry about it. They will level out, and you'll start getting real consistent egg production out of them in the next couple of weeks. So, Ordinary Mango says, do you have any tips for making a homemade incubator? I don't actually. I would say, the thing that's going to be difficult about a homemade incubator is your heat source and what you use to control your heat source, the thermostat you're using for your heat source. Just like any type of incubator, as long as you put it in an area that's fairly temperature stable, it won't be nearly as hard. But if you've got an area where, like, a room with a draft where the temperature really fluctuates up and down, up and down, up and down, it's going to be hard to regulate that temperature. So, when I was a kid, we hatched out some chicken eggs in an incubator my grandfather built, and it was just a wooden box with a glass front on it, and I want to say it was a 40 watt or maybe it was a 60 watt light bulb in there on a dimmer switch. You had to manually control it, but it worked. We hatched out chicken eggs. Quail eggs are a little bit more finicky, in my opinion, so I think they need a little bit more of a constant temperature. Honestly, you could probably make one, but I don't think you're going to save that much money over just buying one. So I would just suggest just save up your money and buy it, unless you just want to make one and see if you can do it. Start with maybe a styrofoam cooler or something like that retains heat really, really well. You could put a plexiglass front in it or a plexiglass top so you could see inside. Probably a light bulb incandescent light bulb for the heat source. But I don't know exactly what you could use for your thermostat. I'm looking around like I have something. I don't have anything here. I'm thinking about what that could be. Maybe one of those Inkbird temperature regulators are made for like refrigerators and things. I don't know if that's going to be, because they have like a 2 or 3 degree temperature swing either way before they kick on the heat or let off the heat. So your temperature is going to fluctuate probably 6 degrees. Like if you set it at 99, it's going to fluctuate between 96 and 102. I had to think real hard. So it's going to fluctuate a little bit right in there. It might work, it might not. You could try it and see. Those are pretty cheap. $5, $6, maybe $10 for one of the simple ones. So it may be worth a try on that. I'm sorry, I haven't built a homemade incubator myself, so I don't know that I have any great tips for it. All right, Live to Fish is in the California Bay Area. Awesome. Bet that's a nice area. All right, Marie says, hi, did you say on the last broadcast that you had a digital pressure canner? I have electric pressure canner, yeah. Says, if so, would love to see you do some videos on that. I did a video talking about it. I think I demonstrated. I cooked something in it, I think, at the time, because it's a pressure canner or cooker. It's what is the brand? I can't remember. It's either Carry or Shard, is that right? I can't remember now. One of those companies, I can't remember which one it is, because one of them, it used to be that, and then the other one bought them out, and now it's that brand. I can't remember what it is. I think it's a Carry Smart Canner is what they call it. Now, I will give you a warning. There aren't any approved, like the FDA doesn't approve pressure canning in an electric pressure canner. The reason they don't approve that is because they say that none of them have been tested according to them. The process of a pressure canner, part of the process is you've got to let it vent. It's not just about getting into pressure. It's about letting it vent for so long to replace the air inside with steam. Well, this pressure canner does that. The manufacturer clearly says it can be used for canning, whether you trust the manufacturer or not. But I have, it works to me just like a pressure canner you'd put on your stove. And, I think probably lots and lots of people have used it and nobody's getting sick, or they would have, you would have heard about it. So I trust it, but I will give you that warning. It's not approved by FDA to use, but works great. Excuse me. The best thing about it is you don't have to babysit it. So basically you just there's a dial on top to go to vent, you know, so you turn it on, you start it up, tell it to pressure can for however long you want to pressure can. It counts down, and then it beeps when it'll start venting, you know, really good venting, lots of steam coming out. And then after a while, it'll beep, and then you just flip it over to airtight. And when you do, that's when the pressure builds up, and then it starts counting down. When it gets to pressure, it starts counting down the time. And at that point, you can just go to bed if you want to. You don't have to babysit it like a pressure canner on your stove, where you have to stand there and watch it and make sure, you know, oh, the weight's not jiggling quite enough, turn the heat up just a little bit. No, it's jiggling a little too much, turn the heat down just a little bit. That's how you kind of have to do pressure canners. Hey, look at that. There's Lars. 200 Danish crown, I think it is, super chat. Thank you so much, Lars. I appreciate that. You're always so generous. Come in here and just throw money at me for no reason. But where was I going with that? So yeah, it's a great pressure canner. I like it. It doesn't hold as much as like your stovetop pressure canners do. So if you're going to do a lot of stuff, you probably want to use the stovetop pressure canner, or use them both, because you can get a small batch going in that one while you're getting the next batch ready for the other pressure canner and get a little bit more done at one time. So anyway, yeah, maybe I'll do another video with that. You know, I quite frequently, like I have like two, you know, I had enough green beans come out of the garden the other day for like 2 jars of green beans. It's perfect for that little, you know, electric pressure canner. And it was nighttime. I mean, it was like, I was getting ready to go to bed in like an hour, hour and a half. So I just, you know, went ahead and canned them up and stuck them in there and kicked it on. And once it got up to pressure, set the airtight, you know, setting, and then just left it, went to bed. Get up in the morning, everything's done. The pressure canner's cooled off. I can open it up, get my jars out. 2 jars of green beans canned up, that easy. So it's pretty nice. All right, Jupiter says, we won some victories on our way on our war on the raccoons. Good. I can imagine that's a war. That's a big war. Says we bought some catch and release traps and eliminated 2 raccoons. Sadly, they managed to get 6 quail. We also got 2 squirrels in the traps. Yeah. Well, so far I've only gotten 3 squirrels in my squirrel trap. If you guys know my little video I put out earlier. Hey, look at that. There's what is Isaiah Valdez with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Isaiah. I appreciate that. I caught 3 squirrels so far in the squirrel trap. You know, that was last week's video showing how I put all that out. By the way, I apologize. I only got 1 video out last week. We were in St. Louis over the weekend because my wife had a doctor's appointment on Monday. And just long story short, we didn't want to have to drive up there Monday with the prep stuff she had to do for her doctor's appointment. So we just went up there early, stayed the night, went to the zoo on Sunday before she had to start her prep stuff, and then went to the doctor's appointment. So I tried to upload that video from the hotel, and the hotel internet just wouldn't do it. I mean, it got up to like 60% and then just sat there forever and ever and ever and just wouldn't upload. So I had to wait till I got back. I didn't get the other video edited and posted. Anyway, sorry I didn't get that done. Try to stay on track for that. But I forgot where I was going with that. 3 squirrels so far in the squirrel trap, but they haven't gotten any more of my tomatoes yet. I haven't seen any other squirrels around. I've seen them on at the neighbor's house and the neighbor's chicken coop, so it's just a matter of time before they're coming over here. But it's working. So, all right, Jenna, I think it is, says, I use stackers in the city. I use wood chips to line the bottom. You can also use puppy pads. Yep, that's a good point. You can. Hey, LLJ, it's been a while. I'm glad to see you. Says, hey, Chris and all, I'm outside attempting the Texas weave on the tomatoes. Really should have done this months ago. They're so overgrown. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I don't really prune my tomatoes back. I just let them go. And it's like a jungle in there. It's crazy. Jupiter says squirrels were stealing our peaches too. Yeah, they got every one of my peaches. I haven't got a peach off that tree yet, and because they get them every year. But I'm going to fix that with this squirrel trap. All right, Tony says, thanks, and you say my last name even better than I do, so no worries. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Abigail says, your opinion on line breeding. Well, if you're talking, I don't know if you're talking about rabbits or quail, but either way, it's a good practice to do. If you've got, it's more of a common thing you talk about in rabbits, because in quail, you don't know you're probably line breeding, but you don't even know it. Line breeding, though, is breeding like the father to the daughter or the son to the mother. And if you've got, I'm sorry, I got distracted by the other comment. I'll get to that in a minute. If you've got some, rabbits with really good traits and you want to, make sure that you accentuate those traits in future breeds, then that's what you would do, is you would breed back, like the father to the daughter or the son to the mother. You never want to breed siblings, just, that way. And it can really help purify a bloodline. It's a pretty common practice, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. My opinion is, if you've got rabbits with really good traits that you want to make sure that you can, I don't even know how to say that, but you want to make sure that those traits are passed on to future generations. Like maybe I'm trying to the just fast growth rate, whatever. Then yeah, definitely line breeding is a good idea if you plan on really building up your rabbitry from inside. In other words, you're not going to just butcher your or get rid of your breeders when they get old and go buy new ones from somewhere else. You're going to build it up from inside your own rabbitry. Then it's a good practice to do. Or you're going to build up certain breeders from inside your own rabbitry. It's a good practice. Now with quail, I mean, it's a good practice for them too for the same reasons, but you're kind of housing them all together. It's most of the time anyway. You're not really isolating. You don't know what birds are coming from what birds, so it's it's kind of a little more difficult to really pinpoint that way. All right, 13 lac, 13 lac for 3. That probably says something I'm not catching, but anyway, it says, have you ever raised goats? No, I have not personally raised goats. My neighbor has some, but I haven't personally. So, Mark says, hey Chris, Ohio here. What causes quail chicks' toes to curl up? Oh boy, it could be a couple of different things. If you're talking about in the brooder box, like when they're coming out of the incubator, then that's a pretty common problem, and it usually happens because of a temperature issue in your incubator. Those are usually the ones that hatch late. Then maybe your temperature was running just a little bit low, so those birds hatch out late, and they don't, for some reason, don't develop right, or they're stuck in the egg for so long that they don't get a chance to flex those tendons and those muscles. A lot of times you'll end up with like splayed legs and those kinds of things where their legs are out to the side or out behind them, and they can't just quite stand on them. That's all kind of the same thing. And a lot of times it's, like I said, an incubation issue with your incubator, usually running a little bit low on temperature, like a degree or two low. It can be a genetic thing that causes that, if it's some kind of genetic issue that's passed on to them. And it can be a vitamin deficiency as well, but that's not usually going to show up in chicks. That's going to usually show up in older animals. So it would be like a vitamin E and thiamine deficiency is what you would see if they're older birds that are starting to have leg problems like curling of toes or splayed legs in older birds. That's not usually your day-old chicks. Usually your chicks come out of the incubator like that. Now you can fix that. You just have to build some kind of splint that holds their foot out flat, like use Band-Aids or something like that to hold their foot out flat. If you get to it quick enough, you can fix it. As long as you get their feet stretched out flat, use something that's going to hold them out flat for a day or two, and that will stretch those tendons out, and they'll probably get over it just fine. So hopefully that kind of answers that one. All right, Aries says, can I keep Quaqueturnix quail with my Celadon, and will they breed? Yeah, they'll breed. Celadon quail are Quaqueturnix quail. Celadon's just a gene that they carry that makes them lay blue eggs. They're still Quaqueturnix quail, so there's no different. In fact, you can't really tell the difference between them and any other bird, just what color egg they lay. Celadon can be any breed of quail can be, or any color, I guess you could call it a breed. Like you've got Jumbo Pharaohs, you've got A&M Whites, you've got tuxedos. Any of those can be Celadon layers. It's just a gene that they carry. It's a recessive gene, so even if your birds carry that gene, but they don't have, like, in simple terms, both of those genes, maybe they've got one recessive from their mom and one one Celadon from their mom and one non-Celadon from their dad, they're not going to lay Celadon eggs. But if you breed that with another bird that has the same mix-up, one Celadon gene, one non-Celadon gene, theoretically maybe a quarter of the offspring that it produces would have both Celadon genes, so therefore it would produce Celadon eggs, if that makes sense. Yes, they will breed. It's just fine. You can do it. All right, Elijah says hello. Hello to you, Elijah. Good to see you. Good evening to you, Squatched in Alabama. And TH55269 says, I had an issue with my temperature last hatch and had one tiny chick that is about a quarter of the size of the rest. Could this be from the temp or genetics? Probably genetics. It could be, I guess the temp could affect the size, but more than likely it's genetics. I get an oddball little tiny bird that's like half the size of the other birds once every couple of hatches. It just happens, and it's just probably some kind of genetic thing. Now, they usually grow up, and they're pretty much, by the time they're full grown, they're pretty much caught up, but yeah, it's probably genetics. Live to Fish says, how do you clean hatching eggs? You don't. You don't really clean them. I mean, if they have just like a chunk of debris, you can scrape that off, kind of brush it off. But other than that, you don't really want to clean them. If you've got an egg that's overly dirty, you're best to just not incubate it. Because what happens if you wash that down, and what I mean wash, I mean like scrub it clean, you're washing off the bloom on the eggshell, and you're opening it up to bacterial infection. And you're going to introduce that bacteria into your incubator with the rest of your eggs. So it's really best if you can avoid washing them or cleaning them. Just throw it out if it's overly dirty. All right, Michael says, I didn't know that we're doing a video with Coturnic. I didn't know you were doing a video with Coturnic's Corner. You, him, and Zach from my shire are the reason 99% of us raise quail. Thanks again for helping us all be a little more self-sufficient. Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind comments. Yeah, Terry reached out to me, asked me if I would be on one of his live broadcasts. He wants to interview me. So I said, sure, why not? I'm up for that. So that's the plan, 6 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday the 11th on the Coturnic's Corner channel. So we'll be there. And I've been talking with Zach off and on for a while now about trying to work out some kind of collaboration video that we're going to do together, but haven't got really any details yet. Don't know how that's going to work yet. We're just talking it through, trying to work it out. I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to really, plan that out. So, excuse me. All right, Elijah, good evening to you. Oh, that went down wrong. Excuse me. All right. Phyllis says Terry made a homemade one, a homemade incubator. Interesting one. Maybe go check that out and see. Squatch in Alabama says, I see you're going to be a guest on Coturnic's Corner. Congrats. We'll be watching. Thanks. I'm glad you guys are going to watch. All right. Jimmy says, I've had Coturnic's for several years, but am having trouble in integrating new ones to existing groups. I separated by mutation. Suggestions for me in Alabama. Yeah. Suggestions for me in Alabama. Well, whether you're in Alabama or not, my suggestions really go for all the. Yeah, I assume what you're saying is you're having trouble because when you try to mix them together, they just fight like crazy and beat each other up, and that's pretty common. If you can move the birds in when they're like 2 to 3 weeks old, right now in the summertime, it should be easy enough to do because the temperatures are like here anyway, and you're probably not that much different. The nighttime lows aren't getting below like 75. So at 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old at the most, they're fully feathered out and they can handle that temperature no problem. You can put them in the hutch at that time and they seem to get along a lot better. I very seldom have any aggression problems with my birds when I'm combining them that young. Now, if I wait till the other birds get up to age, like 6 to 8 weeks old, then try to combine them, there's almost always some kind of fighting that goes on. They'll pick on each other. Sometimes they'll kill a bird or peck their eyes out. So yeah, that's my suggestion. My best suggestion on how to combine them together. Now, if you're already stuck at this point, like crap, all I've got is older birds. What do I do? Try to mix them up in smaller groups if you have the cages to do that. So instead of putting, 6 or 7 new birds in with your group of 6 or 7, if you can mix them up in like groups of maybe 4, 2 new birds to 2 older birds, put them in their own cage by themselves in a new cage that's not, familiar to any of them, and do that with them, that can help them kind of mingle a little bit. And then you may have to do a little bit of, kind of musical chairs kind of thing. Just move a couple of birds here and there for a couple of days, and then put them all together after a while and see if that works. But the only other suggestion I have is, if you can wait till, wintertime when they get out of their breeding cycle, reduce the amount of light on them so they quit laying eggs, quit crowing, all that. Their hormones go down and they're not nearly as aggressive at that point. So you might be able to get away with it then too. Those are a couple of suggestions. Hopefully it helps. All right, Rich D says, love the show. How close do you and can you line breed your rabbits? Thank you. I think I kind of answered that, but yeah, again, you can breed father to daughter. You can breed son to mother. Don't want to breed siblings to each other. That's pretty much it. So not even half siblings. Just avoid that altogether. All right. Jeffrey says a water heater thermostat. That might work well for, you're talking about for your homemade incubator. That might work well, Jeffrey. Thanks for the suggestion. DLN says, I have my incubator in an unfinished basement that stays about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Is that okay? They seem to be keeping it temperature. Yeah, if it stays a constant 60 degrees, that's probably fine. Your incubator should be able to heat up enough to, get that up to 99, 33 degrees more, or 39 degrees more, I guess that is. So yeah, I would say 60 degrees is fine, as long as it's not just, What you don't want to do is keep it in an area where it's 60 degrees and then it jumps to 100 degrees and then it drops back down to 40 degrees, and where the temperature really fluctuates a lot. Your incubator is going to have a hard time regulating that. All right, Michael says, do you have a link for a thermometer that can be calibrated? I looked at Walmart and can't find one. I was given an old incubator that heats up well, but the thermometer is shot. Okay, so wow, I don't know if I have a link for one specifically, because any of them should be. Do I have a thermometer in here? I don't have it. Basically, you're looking for a thermometer that is non-digital. Make sure it goes down below 100 degrees or down to 0 degrees, ideally, so you can calibrate it. And it should have a nut on the back of it. That's the calibration. You just turn it. Most of them do. I haven't seen very many that don't. Almost all of them can be calibrated. Look on Amazon. Just look for a meat thermometer. And just about any of those big dial, round face dial thermometers, almost all of them are going to have a nut on the back that you can turn to calibrate it, to just turn it. I don't have a specific brand, but you shouldn't have to spend much money for one. If you're really worried about it, just buy a medical grade thermometer. They're not that expensive, and they're probably even more accurate, actually. Probably don't even have to calibrate them. All right, Chad says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, Chad. Live to Fish says, how should I clean my incubator? I just scrub it out with some, I use dish soap most of the time. Scrub it out, get all the obvious gunk off it. It's going to be stained up. You're never going to get all those stains out of it. Wash it out real good. You could spray it down with like a light bleach, bleach and water mixture. I wouldn't do straight bleach, but bleach and water mixture. You can spray it down if you're really worried about it, or just take it outside and set it in the sun for a day after you wash it out, and that's going to sterilize it. It's going to be just fine. That's all I do. You don't have to do anything extra special. All right. Mark says, hey, everyone, my Bob Whites laid their first eggs today. Awesome. Congratulations. Oh, I scrolled too far. Hello to you, Boris. Marie says, thank you. I just got USDA approved electric canner by Presto. If you want to check it out, it's pressure or water bath. So I didn't know Presto had one. That must be new, a newer model anyway. The only electric canner I ever knew that the USDA approved was, I think it was made by Ball. No, was it Ball? Yeah, I think it was Ball. But it was a water bath canner, not a pressure canner. Interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out here. Let me make a note of that so I don't. Presto electric pressure canner. There we go. I'm gonna take a look at that later. So thank you. All right, wait, where's my comment? There's my chat. There we go. Thanks, Maria. I'm gonna have to look at that. What do you say? Got approved for meat too. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, meat. Well, if it's approved to can, it's approved to can for meat. It's just a matter of how long you're canning it. Meat takes a lot longer, like an hour and a half, and most vegetables are 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. Michael says, I bought one of the waters that has a cup that raises when emptied and lowers when full to stop the valve. 3 weeks in, it works fine because the whole cup fills. It works fine, but because the whole cup fills a lot and evaporates, 5 gallon lasts 13 hens 1 week. Well, yeah, I tried some of those one time. I didn't really care for them much myself. I found that they got dirtier. The birds like to mess in them, I guess, is what I found. I just didn't care for them. But I'm not saying they're bad. I just prefer the ones that have the little yellow stem in there that the birds peck at to get the water out. It doesn't stay full of water all the time. But that's just my preference. All right. Nicholas says, good evening. Great to catch you again. Well, thanks, Nicholas. Great to see you here again. Gaming Gator says, hey, I was bringing me 6 week, what? Hey, I was bringing me 6 week old quail in from their run. Okay, I was bringing that's what it means. Okay, in from the run, and one had blood all over its beak from a cut, and one of her nails was hurt with blood. Do you know what might have caused it? Any number of things could cause that. If you've got a wire run, it's possible that she got her nails caught in the cage, or her beak caught in the wire, or something like that. It could have been just whatever she was. Who knows? Could have been fighting with another bird. Maybe a bird thought her toe was a worm and grabbed it. Birds can hurt themselves a number of different ways. It happens. Chances are she's going to recover just fine, and hopefully you don't have that issue anymore. If you start having other birds with that issue, I would start really paying attention. See if there are something in the run maybe that's causing that they're able to injure themselves on, or if it's another bird that's picking on them and causing those injuries maybe. But other than that, there's not really much you can do. Phyllis says, what program to edit your videos? I use Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro. For the longest time, I just used Windows Movie Maker, but I have since invested in Windows, in Premiere Pro. I have a little side business that I do for real estate, photography, and videography services, so it kind of made sense to do that, the Adobe suite. So that's what I use. Live to Fish says, when you going fishing again? As soon as I can. It just seems like there's something going on every weekend. I can't ever get out. This weekend, the rivers are up, so I don't know if I'll be able to make it out. I don't know what I have to do yet. Maybe I can find some time on Saturday to go out for a little while, if it doesn't rain too much more between now and then and flood. All right. Keto Cutie says, hey, processed my first rabbits yesterday. Been watching your videos and other meat rabbit raisers for months. Did it without referencing videos. Awesome. Well done. Glad you got it done. All right. Live to Fish says, what do you think about the little giant incubator? That's what I use. It works great. I don't have any problems with it. I did have the thermostat go out in it one time, and it quit regulating the temperature, and the temperature shot way up and ruined a whole batch of eggs. But I contacted the company, Miller Manufacturing is who makes it, and told them, I said, hey, I had this, my thermostat went out on my incubator. They didn't ask me, like, when did you buy it? Nothing of that. They just said, okay, what's your address? Sent me a brand new thermostat. So great customer service. And I got it in like 2 or 3 days. It wasn't any time at all. So I like Little Giant. I'm pretty happy with it. Now, if it goes out and I have to buy a new one, I'll probably buy a Hovabator. I hear really good things about those, but right now it's holding up. And I've been running it for, good grief, years, like 7, 8 years. I've been using the same incubator. All right, Kyle says, raccoons may be bad everywhere I live in Ohio. Raccoons must be bad everywhere I live in Ohio, and I caught 6 coon and 2 possum in 2 weeks where my rabbits are quail are housed. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of raccoons. We get one around here every once in a while, but they haven't bothered any of my animals. It's usually just one. It hangs around for a week or 2 or something like that and then moves on. All right, Wall Street Homestead. Hello, hope all is well. I'm doing well, thank you. Hope you are too. All right, Black, with 13 lac fur is, it's Backfire. Okay, a cool name when I was a kid. I got it. That makes sense. I almost said Backfire because I just glanced at it, so now I get it. All right, Kenny says, why does the head hang down and that backs up? Well, I don't know what that means, Kenny. I'm sorry. Howdy to you, Big Mike. Big D Mike, that is. Squatched, Alabama. Anyone else here have COVID? No, I don't. Do you? Hopefully you're doing okay with it. My cousin had it, actually. He said it really wasn't that big a deal to him. He just felt kind of a little run down for a couple of days, lost his sense of smell and lost his sense of taste. Didn't know that's what it was at the time. The rest of his family got it. His daughter didn't. She got over it pretty easily. It wasn't that bad, but his wife it really put her down for a couple of days. She was pretty weak, couldn't hardly get up and get around. They're all doing okay now. Hopefully you are too. All right. Jupiter says, thumbs up, everyone. Thank you, Jupiter. I appreciate that. How are we doing on time? 20 minutes left. Man, it goes fast, doesn't it? Big Mike, Big D Mike says, I did have 18 of 28 Bob White quail hatch. Awesome. Congratulations on that. All right. Where are we at here? Spencer Acoustics. Hi, all. Chris, my 16 quail are just over 6 weeks old. I was surprised by 8 eggs in the last 2 days. Isn't that a bit early? It is a bit early, but it's not unheard of. Sometimes birds will start producing as young as 6 weeks old. Doesn't usually happen for me that way, but it's nothing to worry about. It happens. All right. Owen says, hi, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Hope you are too. Bubba, good to see you again, by the way. Says, hey, Chris, watch some of your videos when you were raising quail in your garage in the wire cages. What did you use for dropping pans? Good question. I bought dropping pans. That's what they're made for. They're dropping pans for animal cages. They were kind of expensive, like $20 a pan. And they're, let's see, I had some that were aluminum, which I think I sold those. And I had some that are plastic I've still got. They worked pretty well, but like I said, kind of expensive. I think that if I was going to do it again, I eventually got rid of that because I just didn't like empty and dropping pans. So I moved them outside to outside hutches, let the droppings fall to the ground. Much easier for me. If I was going to do it again, I would get the dropping pans first, and I would probably go with like oil catch pans or something like that. They usually come in pretty good sizes, and they're much, much cheaper. And then build your cages to fit that pan. That's the way I would probably do it if I was going to do it again. All right, Live to Fish says, tell Zach to do another giveaway. I think that's up to me, but Jack says, thumbs up just for the shirt. Oh, well, thank you. What shirt am I wearing? Oh, I know what shirt I'm wearing. Yeah, this is one of my favorite shirts. Jimmy says, I think that this is the worst year ever for me. Blooded heads galore. Oh, man. So your quail are fighting. You're having lots of problems with that. Uh-oh, are we freezing up? Are we doing okay? Hopefully we are. All right, Michael says, I have a bunch of 10-foot sunflowers blooming out of my yard. It's very small, and they are all up against the fence and facing toward the neighbor's yard. Lesson learned. I'm not sure what lesson you learned. Oh, that you planted them next to the fence so they're all facing your neighbor's yard? That's the lesson that's learned? Okay. We did plant a couple of sunflowers. There were different kinds of sunflowers my wife had in the garden. Only one of them is really making it. The others kind of died off. All right, Live to Fish says, any opinions on J feeders? Yeah, J feeders for rabbits. That's what I use. They work great. I don't know of a specific brand I got. Whatever one, I think they're all pretty much the same. So I don't know that there's a specific one that's any better than any other. But yeah, they work great for my rabbit feeders. I don't use them for quail, but for rabbits, they work great. All right, and then he says, where do you live? I live in a house. I live in Joplin, Missouri, southwest Missouri, the very southwest corner. It's right on the border of Oklahoma and Kansas, and just, 30, 45-minute drive from Arkansas. All right, Michael says, Live to Fish. I use the ones like Chris uses, made of Tupperware. They seem to work great. Sometimes I put a brick on top to stop them from knocking the container over. Yeah, if you get a wide enough base container, they won't knock it over. But you're right. If you use a narrow one, they do tend to knock it over. I think I did video on like how to make those, and I used a narrow one. But yeah, the wider bases ones actually work better. All right, illustration says, accurate digital thermometer at Walmart, cooking department, can be calibrated. I like it. It's around $15. There you go. I don't trust digital thermometers myself, but hey, if it's working well for you, go for it. All right, Vast Stuff says, hey, I have a question. What did you do with the squirrels you caught last week? Did you kill them? If yes, how did you kill them? Yeah, I shot them with a pellet gun. Just put them out pretty quick, and then threw them off in the tree line back there in the back. Normally, I eat squirrel. I like to eat squirrel, but they're city squirrels. I don't know about eating city squirrel. It just doesn't seem right. So I did not eat them. I hate just wasting them like that, but they're overcrowded. They need to be thinned out. They don't have any predators. All right, Watermelon says, hey, I have 15 quails in the incubator, and it's day 18. No pipping or hatching. Is that okay? Yeah, it's probably fine. Give them another day or two. They could take up to 22, 23 days. I didn't have birds hatch out as late as 25 days before. I would suggest, though, especially if this is a common thing you're running into and they do hatch out late, get a calibrated thermometer. Make sure to calibrate it. Throw in your incubator. Get 2 of them, actually, so you can make sure they're right. Calibrate them both. Make sure they're accurate first. Put them in your incubator after your hatch is all done, and verify that your incubator is reading temperature correctly. It may be reading your temperature may be running a little lower than what it says it is. It may say 99, but it's actually only 97 or something like that. But give them a couple of days first. Give them, another week if you have to, just to be sure. All right, Gaming Gator says, at what age should I seal with my male to female problem? It's probably deal with my male to female problem. I have 7 and 7. They are 6 weeks, wondering when I have to sort it out. Pretty quick. I would try to process your extra roosters, in the next week or two at the latest, because if you don't, what's going to happen is they're going to overbreed your females and just tear out all the feathers on the back of their heads, and just make them miserable. And that can lead to aggression too. Your females will start fighting back, and they can be pretty aggressive, pretty mean. So I would get it done in the next, week or two. All right. Where are we at here? Live to Fish says, what do you do for a living? I work for a living. I'm an account manager for a call center. So that's what I do. I've been in call centers, oh my gosh, since I was 19 years old, and I'm 46 years old now, so a long time. But yeah, I'm an account manager, which not an accountant, an account manager. I manage the account, the client-company relationship. All right. Gaming Gator says, watermelon on that's okay. Okay, you guys are talking to each other. I'll let you talk to each other. Hey there, Jay. Death Ranger says, I'm having some baby quails. Well, congratulations. Ken says, hello, everyone. Congratulations on the squirrel trap working. It was good to see other people's projects go like mine. I'm curious if you can give quail fresh basil from the garden. Yeah, you can give them fresh basil from the garden, no problem. Don't, overfeed them with that stuff. But yeah, a little bit here and there is a treat. Same thing with like romaine lettuce. Don't feed iceberg lettuce to any of your animals. It's terrible. But romaine's okay, a little bit of that. Spinach, most greens are going to be fine for your birds. Again, just in small amounts here and there, not as their main diet. Live to Fish says, how's your wife doing? Well, she's doing okay, thank you. She's had some health problems. From those of you guys that don't know, breast cancer about 1.5 years ago. That's all taken care of now, which led to hysterectomy and actually hysterectomy for anyway. Lots of little surgeries and things, and found out she's got I think it's called P10 gene. So she has to go back for periodic checkups and different things to make sure she's doing okay. Having a few little minor problems that they're trying to figure out. Don't think it's cancer related. I tend to not worry too much about those things. I figure God's got it. He's going to watch over us and he's going to take care of us. And he has so far. So until we find out anything for sure, I just don't worry too much about it. We don't think there's any cancer related issues going on, but we don't know for sure yet. I don't want to share a lot. She's kind of private about it. So I'll let her, have her privacy that way. But, prayers for her would be appreciated. Again, nothing to worry about right now. If it does become something serious, I'll let everybody know and ask for more prayers for sure. Bob says, is 1 inch by 1/2 inch hardware cloth flooring okay for outdoor quail hutch, or can predators get in? I don't think I'd use 1 inch by 1/2 inch. I think you use 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. 1 inch by 1/2 inch, I don't think predators are going to get into that. But it's a little bit too big for the flooring because the quail's feet, you're going to have feet problems. They're going to get their feet stuck in the wire and have a hard time walking on it and all those kinds of things. 1/2 inch is a little bit better. So I would use that over 1 inch by 1/2 inch, just for the floor. The 1 inch by 1/2 inch you can use for the sides and the top. That's no problem. All right, Eagle's Wings says, raccoons kept getting our chickens, ducks, and quail so crafty, we felt like we were sponsoring a wildlife feeding program. Come to find out, a lady is a wildlife rehabilitator through the woods from us. Oh no. So is she like letting them go in the woods behind the house and they're coming over and becoming your problem? I think I'd have a serious talk with her about that. As a wildlife rehabilitator, she should know better, first of all, and it's probably illegal. You're probably not supposed to just release them right there, but who knows? Live to Fish says, what's a good state where I can buy land for a good cheap price? I don't know that I'm the best person to ask about that because, well, I'm not a realtor and I'm not a land broker. I don't know much about that stuff. I know Missouri is a popular place for a lot of people. The land here is fairly cheap compared to a lot of other places. The winters are fairly mild compared to places up north. Summers get hot, but it gets hot in the summer everywhere. So, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, I don't know about Oklahoma, Kansas. If you like the plains, if you're just looking for, I don't know about, I don't know if I'd want to live in Oklahoma or Kansas. No offense to people that live in Oklahoma or Kansas. It's just not, I like the Ozarks. That's my personal, what I really like. So, that's a couple of things to consider there, but you're going to have to do that research on your own. I'm kind of biased. I live here. This is my home. This is what I like. So, I don't know that, I know it is, like I said, cheaper here than it is in a lot of places. But there may be other places you can get away with even better deals. I don't know. Somebody says Washington or Alaska. There you go. If you want to live in Alaska, I think Alaska would be a great place to go visit, maybe even hang out for a month or two, but I don't think I want to buy land there and live there. All right. Robert says rabbits love sunflower leaves. Yeah, they love sunflower seeds too. In fact, most animals do. It's kind of like peanut butter. Everything likes peanut butter. Michael says, restaurant supply stores sell baking sheets that are thick, 3 foot by 2 foot. They work for dropping pans, cost about $20 a piece. That's a good suggestion. Thanks. All right, Jesse says, love the shirt. I used to live in Sykeston, Missouri, the Boot Hill. Yeah, I know where that is. Don't think I've ever been there, but I know where it is. Sage and Stone Homestead said, good evening, Chris. Any reason not to raise quail on the ground? No, nothing that I can think of. Yeah, you're raising them on the ground. You're going to have a slightly higher risk of getting parasites. May or may not be a big issue where you live. I don't know that I'd worry about it too much. You are going to have a harder time collecting eggs because you're going to have to search for them. you're going to have to do a little bit more cleanup work with them too, because they produce a lot of waste. So unless you have a really big area for a small amount of birds, or you have some kind of hutch that you're moving them around regularly, you're going to be cleaning it out pretty regularly. But that's it. That's the only downside. I think they'd be perfectly happy growing up on the, raising them on the ground. I think it'd work out really well. I have seen some setups where people built like big hoop house type with like cattle panels. Big aviary type things. So they had like 3 sections, and they would just move the birds between the 3 back and forth to rotate them and let the, so they didn't have to clean it up all the time. Let the droppings break down over time. So, but that's a couple of ideas on that. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't raise them on the ground. I think they'd be perfectly happy to do it, probably happier than they are in cages. But if you can stay on top of the husbandry, the maintenance, they'd be just fine. If you let, if you're like me, where you work a full-time job, and I'm just lazy sometimes. So I get home from work and I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything. And you're not you don't stay on top of the cleaning sometimes. It's probably best not to keep them on ground, because their droppings will build up quick. It will be a mess. And like I said, as long as you're going to do that, as long as you're going to keep up with it, no problems. I think they'll do great. Squatch says, yes, I have COVID, and day 6 or 7, shortness of breath, feel like crap in the evenings, but my throat feels better, not sore anymore, and lost smell earlier. Man, praying for you that you recover from that soon. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse. Hang in there, buddy. Like I said, you're going to probably make it through. Probably make it through. That sounds terrible. I don't mean it like that. You're going to make it through. You're probably going to make it through pretty quick. It's probably going to get better pretty quick. You're on day 6 or 7, so you got maybe another, 5 or 6 days of it probably before you really start kicking it. It sounds like you're already starting to kick it a little bit, getting a little bit better. It's just going to get better after that. So hang in there, buddy. We're praying for you that you have a speedy recovery. New Mexico Dust Bunny says, Chris, if your pellets are lead, the wildlife will ingest it when they scavenge the bodies from the squirrel. Well, that's a good point. I don't know. They may be lead. If they do ingest it, it's a pellet of lead. It's not, they probably get more lead than that out of the ground here. Things that grow in the ground. This was a big mining community at one time. There's probably lead in all the ground around here. Not very far from here, that they have whole towns shut down because of the lead content. So yeah, it's a valid concern, but I don't think it's going to be a big issue with them. All right, Stevie Outdoors says, hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Andrew says, I have a question. How do you deal with them attacking each other? I have had 2 birds hurt bad, one with an almost dime-sized hole in their neck. Yeah, what I do if I have those problems is I try to identify which one is the aggressive bird, and then I eat it for dinner, because I don't tolerate aggression in my birds. Unless it's something like I've put, brand new birds in with them. I expect that to spark some arguments and fighting and those kinds of things. And they usually work it out pretty quick. But if these are birds that have been together for a long time, and then all of a sudden one of them just gets aggressive with the others and starts fighting them, it goes. I don't put up with it. All right, Stevie says, praying for her, praying for my wife. Thank you, I appreciate that. Trapper says, and Claire says, oh my gosh, with a broken heart. Well, I think you're probably talking about why. It's okay. Like I said, she's doing fine right now. And if there is anything to worry about, we'll know about it later. Right now, it doesn't seem to be. All right, what are we doing here? 10 minutes left. Boy, like I said, time flies. Trapper says, hey buddy, I just got my first rabbits. They're 3 months old New Zealand whites. They previously had unlimited access to food. Should I reduce them to 8 ounces a day? They're how old? 3 months old, 12 weeks old. I would start reducing them, not to 8 ounces a day necessarily, but to whatever they're going to eat in 24 hours. So it's probably going to be about 8 ounces. You can start off with that, put 8 ounces in the feeder. When you go to feed them the next day, 24 hours later, if there's still pellets in the feeder, give them just a little bit less until you find that sweet spot. If you go to feed them and the feeder's empty, and as soon as you dump the food in there, they just dive in and start just, really going to town on the food, put a little bit more in there the next day, and you'll kind of figure out where that sweet spot is within a day or two. And my rabbits go through phases. Like my male, especially my buck, some days he's like, he cleans out his feeder and he can't wait for the feed the next morning, and he'll go through that for like a week where I'm just adding a little bit more, and then I finally get it right, and then after a while it's like he goes back to just, I don't feel like eating today, and he doesn't eat as much, and I go back to a cup a day for a while, and then it picks back up a little bit later. I don't know why. They just do that from time. All right, Sage and Stone says, gosh, Washington is $, $. I guess it means expensive. I don't know. It might be. Stevie says, I had to add a modification to my cage because critters were pushing the bobwhite's legs, pulling the legs off and killing them. I just uploaded my video. Yeah, that's probably raccoons. Hawks can do the same thing. Really, a lot of different things can do that. Hawks tend to go after quail, depending on what kind of hawk. Cooper's hawks, we have some around here. And I've had them try to get to the quail from underneath the quail hutch before. Raccoons are notorious about that. All right, New Mexico says, can rabbit eat sunflower stalk too, or just leaves and seeds? You know, I really don't know. I don't see why they couldn't eat the stalk, but I don't think I've ever seen a rabbit eating a sunflower stalk. I think that'd be fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's okay, but I don't know. Look it up and make sure and verify. Andrew says, yeah, I like the shirt. Thanks. Jamie says, question, I have a doe I got a month ago. She's not breeding. She's 3 foot from my buck, and he bred for the first time earlier this month. What should I do? Black oil sunflower seed. You said the doe is not breeding. Okay, so you put her in the male's hutch, and she just kind of hunkers down in a corner, or she runs around and won't let him mount, won't lift for him whenever he does. Pretty common issues you're going to run into. Rabbits are not like other animals, some other animals anywhere, where they just go into heat and go into at a certain time. It's kind of the act of breeding that causes them to get in the mood and to go into, to produce eggs. So, one thing, what I find usually is persistence works. A lot of does are really, really stubborn when it comes to breeding, especially first time breeding. So you put her in the male's cage, you leave her in there for 15 minutes. She doesn't breed, take her out. Go back that night, put her back in the male's cage. Wait 15 minutes. She's probably not going to lift for him at that point either. Take her out, put her back in her cage. Go back the next morning, the next evening, the next morning, the next evening. Usually after about 4 or 5 times, she'll lift for him and let him breed. If that doesn't work, I have heard great results from people by taking the doe, putting her in a pet carrier, putting her in her car, drive her around the block a couple of times, bring her back and put her in the male's cage. I don't know why that works, but people swear that it does work. And enough of them swear that it works that there's got to be something to it. So, you can try that. Now, you can force breed if none of that other stuff is working. Basically, that would involve you holding the doe when the buck mounts, putting your hand under her and lifting her up. It's a little tricky to do. And I don't really care to do it myself. I usually find that, like I said, being just persistent time and time again, morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, 4 or 5 times, something like that, she'll usually lift for him and allow him to. Now, what I have had to do before is to, like I've had does that run around the cage, and I just put my hand in there and stop them. And when they stop, the buck mounts, they lift for him, no problems. So I've had that happen before too. But anyway, hopefully that helps. Yeah, a few black oil sunflower seeds aren't going to hurt anything, but I don't know that they're going to do much to put her in the mood. Maybe. It's hard to say. Oh, and one other thing you might do is make sure they have enough light. 14 hours a day of light, that'll help put them in the mood to breed as well. So if they're not, like if they're in a really, dark location, or, maybe they just don't get any light, and you don't want direct sun on them, but you want enough daylight. You may have to add some lights above their hutches or something like that to extend the daylight if you need to. All right, where are we at here? 6 minutes left. Rhodes says, Chris, I just got my first quail eggs in the mail today. How long do you suggest I let them settle before putting them in the incubator? I just let mine settle overnight. You don't even need 24 hours, 12 hours or something like that. What I typically do is I take all my eggs and put them in the egg turner right next to the incubator, and just let them sit there overnight. And then in the morning I get up, I open the incubator, put them in the incubator, and start the incubation at that point. All right. Global says, for quail flooring, what gauge is acceptable? Is 19 gauge at 1/2 by 1/2 okay? It is okay. I mean, if you can find a bigger gauge, great. But yeah, 19 gauge is okay. I haven't been able to find hardware cloth in anything in a bigger gauge other than like 19. If you can find 16, do it. All right, Andrew says, thank you for your feedback. How do you identify? I go to check my birds are covered in blood, but only the hurt birds. No other bird has a clear sign of being involved. You should be able to just watch them. Just stand back and watch them for a while. It won't take long before one of them will start really going after the other birds. You should be able to figure it out that way. Live to Fish says, when are you going to start selling eggs? I don't really have any plans to start selling eggs, not on like large scale, like shipping them out, all that kind of stuff. I just don't have the room to do it here. I mean, I have the room, but I live in town, and I can only get away with so much. So I don't really plan on doing that. Who knows, maybe I'll change my mind at some point. I do sell some eggs or even some live birds around here locally. I just put them on Craigslist when I'm going to do it. and somebody locally usually buys them. Sometimes they're a viewer of the channel. They say, hey, I've seen you before. You're on, I watched your videos on YouTube. They didn't even know it was me. But I don't do that on large scale. I'm just not set up for it. All right, globally says lowest land is Texas, New Mexico, and Nevada, and environs. I don't know what environs is. Anyway, Texas and New Mexico, Nevada, I guess it is, isn't it? It's not Nevada. Nevada is the city just north of here. Nevada is the state. Michael said, I tried one. I'm not sure what we tried. New Mexico Dust Bunny says, oh, he's talking to Jamie. I'll let you guys talk. Robert says, mine eat sunflower stalks, also moringa. I don't know what moringa is, but yeah, there you go. His eat sunflower stalks, they're fine. Frank says, question from Texas. I'm going to begin my first incubation this Monday. Can I incubate without using water because Texas humidity runs very high naturally? You're probably going to be fine doing that. A lot of times I don't add any water in the summertime to my incubator, and usually at lockdown I fill one channel of the incubator up just to bump the humidity up a little bit. But dry incubation has worked fine for me. I think you're going to do fine with it. I'd try it. All right. Michael says, I tried one of those upside down tomato planters, cherry tomatoes. It works pretty good, but I don't know if it's better than planting them the regular way. The kids and we hung it on the side of our coop. Yeah, I've seen those before. I don't think you could do much more than, like you said, a cherry tomato or maybe some kind of patio tomato in there, but there's no way you're going to grow like a giant beefsteak tomato in there. By the way, we got our first ripe beefsteak tomato out of the garden just a couple of days ago. And if you guys haven't done this, it was a great, big, nice, oh man, it was good. The squirrels have been getting them other than that, but we got the first one. First ripe beefsteak tomato out of there. Sliced it up, nice thick slices. Cooked up some bacon, had bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwiches. Grilled the bread, butter on both sides, grilled it on both sides. Mixed, went out and got some basil out of the herb garden, diced that up real nice and fine. Mixed that in with some mayo, put that mayo on the bread with that bacon, lettuce, tomato out of the garden. Oh man, best sandwich ever. So one thing I look forward to, I mean, it's the first tomato out of the garden. That's always what I have. It's so good. All right, it makes my mouth water just thinking about it. Eagle's Wing says, we sprouted sunflower seeds in the garden and feed them to the rabbits routinely. Some of the plants are over a foot tall, no problems. I would think that's the case. Yeah, I didn't think there was any kind of problems with sunflower seeds. All right, Andrew says, by the way, your channel is my main source of info outside of reading. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. New Mexico Dust Bunny says, planting upside down increases the chance of disease in the plant from the runoff of the water, and no evidence to show it has any benefit to plant or yield, just a gimmick. Well, it might be. The plants, I know what you're saying, New Mexico, and that's a good point. It does. You would worry about like fungus problems and things like that. But the plant does grow. I mean, it doesn't grow straight down. It grows up, around the sides. So I don't know, maybe. It could definitely increase the chance for sure. I just personally have not found tomatoes to do well in containers. They just almost always have to be in the ground to me to do good. Cherry tomatoes are a little different, but regular tomatoes for sure. All right, Jamie says, sweet, thank you. Oh, we're almost out of time. Says, I'm new to rabbits and chickens. I appreciate the knowledge. I'll try a bit of it all. I have rears, 5-month-old, not laying yet, but roo mounts. I don't know what it is. 5 months old, not laying yet, but the rooster. Yeah, the roosters do tend to mature quicker. I'm just trying to interpret what that. There was a typo probably, and I make them all the time, but I'm trying to interpret what it says. But I get the gist of it. You got a 5-month-old birds. They're not laying eggs yet, but the roosters are mounting. Yeah, the roosters do. Oh, Rhode Island Reds. Okay, that makes more sense. Duh. I'm not really a chicken person that much, so I know what a Rhode Island Red is. I just didn't think of it with that acronym. Where was I going with that? Yeah, roosters do tend to mature faster. They tend to start crowing and mounting first, well before the birds lay eggs. So Lisa says, Andrew says, thank you. You'll see me more. Well, awesome. Good. I'm glad to see you more. Lisa says, I just wanted to thank you for all the video with the incubator in the window. I took your advice and moved mine. My best hatch rate ever, 84%. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that it helped. Yeah, I was kind of confused on mine. I'm like, what is going on with my hatch rate? The last 2 hatches are terrible. And then it hit me. That window right there, the sun's coming right through it all day long. So, yeah, I fixed that issue. And I was glad to share that with everybody in case you were having the problem too. I should have thought, I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier. I knew better, but anyway. Hank Hill says, what age do rabbits become sterile or done breeding? It varies by rabbit. Usually you're looking at like 5-6 years, somewhere right around in there. Some rabbits go longer, some rabbits go less. I mean, it varies a lot. So it's not necessarily a definite set age, and a little bit by breed too. Smaller breeds are gonna last longer. Bigger breeds are gonna age out faster. Sujek says, any plans for other animals such as turkeys? I've thought about adding a turkey from time to time, but I just haven't done it yet. I'd have to build some good fencing or something for the turkey to run in. I can't put him in the backyard. The dog would chase him down and just run him to death. He would have too much fun playing with him. But I don't know. Maybe I'll do a turkey at some time. If I do, it'll probably just be one. It'll just be like 1 or 2 hens, and that's it. And just for the season, just to process for Thanksgiving, that kind of thing. All right. New Mexico Dust Bunny says, cool, thanks everyone. Now I can manage all my sunflowers. If I top a sunflower plant, will it grow side shoots like indeterminate plants? I mean, it depends on the type of sunflower, but I don't think so, no. So I got to get this wrapped up, guys. I got to quit. I mean, we're past time. Not that I mind. I'd love to hang out here with you guys all night, but I got family I got to go spend some time with too. And I got to get up and go to work in the morning too. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Hopefully I got your questions answered. If I didn't, I'm sorry about that. We'll try again next week. I'm really working on getting back into answering comments. I haven't been able to do that. Really, I haven't answered any comments in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So I apologize, guys. I'm really trying to work that into the schedule somehow where I can do that. So, excuse me. And I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, I got to wrap this up. I got to quit talking. So thanks again for joining, guys. God bless each and every one of you. And good night. We will see you again here next week, hopefully.